This programme is the Petro Canada Lubricants Porsche Club Championship with Pirelli.
Hello and welcome to a glorious Donington Park for the season opener of the 2019 Petro Canada Lubricants Porsche Club Championship with Pirelli. We've got a stunning grid of cars assembled for Donington Park. Lots of new faces, lots of returning frontrunners as well. It's set to be another cracking season. Well, Mark and Jake McAleer then, an exciting season ahead for the two of you, I think. Mark, we'll start with you. Back for another season. You can't get enough of this championship, can you?
I mean, it's a great championship. I think we all know that by now. Affordable, but the big thing is it's very competitive. You know, if you're doing any good in this championship, then you know you're doing quite well for what you're doing. Really, it is a very, very good championship.
A few things have changed for you this year, though, haven't they? You're in a new car for 2019, which I believe this is the first race that you'll have in that car. What's it like so far? Yeah,
it's been great. Obviously we've got pole with it, so we don't really get any better than that. But yeah, I mean, obviously we've got a lot to learn with it. We don't really know how it's going to work its tyres in a hot day such as it is today. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be a learning curve, but yeah, at least we've started on the right foot.
Well, joining you on the front row will be your son Jake, and Jake, this is an exciting season for you too, jumping up into Class 1. How are you finding it so far?
Well, I think, to be honest, jumping up into Class 1, you don't really notice it in qualifying, you just go a bit faster. It'll more come in race 1 in about an hour's time in terms of starting further up the grid. I was saying earlier, I normally start about 5-6 rows back, so this time there'll be no one in front of me, so it'll be pretty interesting. But yeah, ask me after race 1 how the jump up is, and I'm sure I'll be able to tell you better then.
I'm intrigued to know, is there a plan going into turn 1? Because the two of you are sharing the front row together, the first race you've raced together in the same class. Anything could happen, couldn't it?
Yeah, well, neither of us have done a race start with these cars either, so it's a bit of a lottery because everyone else behind us has had their cars for at least a year. So the plan is to get off the line cleanly, and I think if we can get round lap 1 in a 1-2, whichever way around, we'll be more than happy with that. We just want to get through cleanly and try hold station, really, don't we? That's the dream.
Well, Matt Kyle Henny making your debut in the championship here at Donington, your circuit racing debut as well though. Talk about jumping straight in at the deep end. You enjoying it so far?
Yeah, I really am actually. First test day on Thursday here. Loved it. Made up loads of time since the first lap that I did, and I reckon there's more to give.
You're in Class 2 then for this weekend, a very competitive class as well. What are your sort of realistic aims for this weekend and then the rest of the season?
Well, obviously finishing. I think I've got it in me to become maybe in the middle, possibly. I'll be over the moon with that.
Perfect weather here at Donington Park for our opening race of the season, and a perfect start for the McAleer family. Mark qualifying on pole from Jake. Michael Price is next from Pete Morris and Steve Cheetham and Simon Clark. Chris Dyer and Andy Toon, row 4. Kevin Harrison and Glenn Broster on row 5 from James Cayley. Kevin Molyneux pole for Class 2 from Trevor Lewis. Then Ross Morrison, Angus Archer, Steve Freeman, Paul Seagrave, Mark Horton, Matt Kyle Henny, Richard Baston and Max Wolstenholme completing our grid. There's a gap on the grid where Mike Price should have been, so a little bit of creeping there from Jake McAleer, who checks it all up. Mark gets away. There's a very good start by Pete Morris from the outside of row 2, and Morris leads as they go down into Redgate. The red and black Strasser prepared car of Pete Morris, the former champion, leads from Mark McAleer, then Steve Cheetham, Jake McAleer, Simon Clark is next. What a start. Now the Class 2s, Angus Archer is repassed by Ross Morris. That's Trevor Lewis in white as well in the mix. Kevin Molyneux in the deeper of the two yellow-covered cars is the leading Class 2 runner. Immediately behind him is Glenn Broster, so that's a good start by Kevin Molyneux, getting up ahead of one of the Class 1 cars, but Broster having a look on the inside line there to try and get back past. Superstar all round. Excellent driving standards going into Redgate in a very evenly matched field and a packed grid of cars. It's an engine problem we hear from Michael Price, which is stopping him from having a first outing this season. Big shame, given all the work that goes on over the winter. Steve Freeman watches the inside line of Glenn Broster going through, so Broster getting back up ahead of the Class 2 leader. Try and get stuck into some of the Class 1 runners now, enjoy his race. But Kevin Molyneux, pole position for him in car number 41 in Class 2. He's got a good lead actually, isn't he, after lap 1? Let's have a look back. Steve Freeman in second. Freeman looking relatively clear in second place as well in the blue Boxster, running second in class. There is Simon Clark in the white and blue Cayman chasing Jake McAleer. Kevin Harrison is next up, followed by Andy Toon and Chris Dyer. Angus Archer involved in the podium battle for Class 2 in these early stages, and Trevor Lewis immediately ahead of him. Angus, like Kevin Molyneux, coming into the championship after a time in the BRSCC Porsche Championship, which has a fairly long history as well, originally starting with the 924s. Chris Dyer, first driver to grab a podium in the championship with the Cayman. There is another new driver, Mark Horton, enjoying himself. Mark qualifying 7th in class, so good qualifying from Mark as the field come through the Fogarty S's and onto the Tom Wheatcross straight once again. Getting very slightly downhill. Our onboard shots as well as our outfield filming showing you the undulations of this place. If you've not been to Donington, I heartily recommend it as a day out. It's run by MSV, Jonathan Palmer's concern. It means that it's clean and tidy. The facilities are top notch. The hospitality in all the areas absolutely superb, and of course some great racing on track, which we're seeing today from the Petro Canada Lubricants Porsche Club Championship with Pirelli. There is Max Wolstenholme having a good run, another newcomer with the newcomer's insignia on the back of the car, and he's chasing these two. Now there's been a swap between these two from qualifying to where they are now, because Matt Carl-Henny in yellow and black qualified ahead of Richard Baston, but the 944 is ahead at the minute. Chris Dyer's dropped back, hasn't he? So Chris Dyer now is down behind Glenn Broster. Pete Morris still the race leader. Mark McAleer is in second from Steve Cheetham. Jake McAleer in fourth. Simon Clark right behind him. And then it is Kevin Harrison rounding out the top six. Down in towards Redgate they go. McAleer, I guess, would have been keeping fingers crossed that it was going to be a 1-2 for the McAleer family. They certainly did a super job in qualifying, but that luck initially not with them at the start of the race. But Mark McAleer still in a handy second place at the minute as Matt Carl-Henny looks down the inside line here. Lovely pass there by Matt Carl-Henny into Redgate, makes the pass on Richard Baston and reclaims his position. And he'll be buoyed by that. Remember, it's Matt's first circuit race here. So some nice dicing going on for him. And his dad, Peter, who races in the Porsche Carrera Cup Great Britain, will no doubt be smiling at that move if he saw it. I'm guessing he'll be in or around the pit lane. As we watch Simon Clark still trying to deal with Jake McAleer. These two dicing for podium position in Class 2. Steve Freeman, who did have a fair old gap over Trevor Lewis earlier on, so Lewis is closing in on Steve Freeman, so a battle on for podium in Class 2. Great sounding cars as they go past our locked camera on the pit wall, and Trevor Lewis being challenged now by Andy Toon, who's obviously had some sort of moment earlier on. The Class 1 car getting stuck into the Class 2s. We've got James Cayley immediately ahead of this group of cars, but Steve Freeman still there in third position in class. Past goes the number 4. Andy Toon, former champion, of course, Class 2 champion, outright champion in 2016, and learning the ropes still in Class 1, I should say. James Cayley up ahead, and you can see Angus Archer in the white and blue Boxster closing down now on Trevor Lewis. So 3 cars having a very good battle indeed for third place. It's Kevin Molyneux still leading Class 2 at the moment from Ross Morris in second. 3 cars for third place, and the yellow, red and black car down behind them is Paul Seagrave, the number 45, championship regular, as now Trevor Lewis looks down the inside line of Steve Freeman, on board with Angus Archer, watching this manoeuvre. That was very well timed from Trevor Lewis, who pops up the inside line, and Angus Archer, I think, has read that well too. Archer going through to try and take 4th position. We watch to the left, there's a shadow there, and Steve Freeman holds on to the place but goes wide into the corner. They're giving each other room, which is super to see, and Freeman runs a little bit of curb there. This is bringing Paul Seagrave into the mix as well. Superb racing for podium positions here in Class 2, and Trevor Lewis read that well. And if they squabble behind him, he could start to stretch his legs and maybe move away. He certainly got... And that's Mark McAleer off the... So Mark McAleer is retired, the pole man is into retirement. Oh no, what a shame for McAleer, what a shame for us, because he was getting on terms with Pete Morris. So Mark McAleer is out of the race. That is such a pity, but not for Pete Morris, who's away and down the road. Now we've got Jake McAleer second from Simon Price, so it looks like Steve Cheatham's dropped back. Now Matt Kyle Henny's got away, got a bit of bodywork on the track there, and that bodywork belongs to Kevin Molyneux in Class 2. It is all happening now on circuit. There's Matt Kyle Henny going through shot. Richard Baston coming under pressure from Mark Horton, who goes wide into the gravel. Oh, that's not what we wanted to see for Mark at all. Such a pity, but he was having a good go there to try and deal with Richard Baston. He out-qualified him there as we pick up on Max Wolstenholme. So this is the battle for second position now, and it's Jake McAleer ahead of Simon Clark, who's posted the fastest lap of the race in the Cayman. These two have been together from the start of this race. It's a long race as well. Then we've got Matt Kyle Henny up ahead of Richard Baston, still having a super dice, and Richard closing in again. And I referenced that bodywork earlier on, which belongs to Kevin Molyneux, who we've lost from the lead of Class 2. It means that Ross Morris is you just saw a flash there of Molyneux's car parked up, ironically, with the other pole position sitter, Mark McAleer. So Kevin Molyneux and Mark McAleer, both pole sitters, are out. Mark Horton is out of the race. Just those 3 retirements so far. There is Mark Horton's car, as if on cue, sadly. So let's just take stock of where we are. It's Pete Morris leading from Jake McAleer and Simon Clark overall. We're watching the battle between Matt Kyle Henny and Richard Baston for 6th and 7th place in Class 2. Ross Morris now the class leader from Trevor Lewis, with Steve Freeman, Angus Archer and Paul Seagrave in close proximity. And then the battle that we're looking at here, and Baston having a good go, but has to go over the curbs. He'll lose a little bit of momentum as they go over the curbs. So Simon Clark with the fastest lap of the race so far in the Cayman, seems to be set up well. Started in P6 on the grid, which was the outside of the third row. But remember, we had the gap on the inside of row 2, where Michael Price should have been. And I'll tell you what, it's going to be great once we see. I'm sure Michael will be back. Our next round is on the Grand Prix circuit at Brands Hatch. I hope Michael will be back for that, along with Craig Wilkins, who won here at Donington Park in the opening race of last season. That will be good to see. Clark closing in now on Jake McAleer. Pete Morris looking, I've got to say, he's not overly comfortable out front, but he has got a bit of breathing space. Doesn't have to worry too much at this stage of the race. Morris lapping in the 115s, 115.1. Did a 1:14 in qualifying. In terms of lap times, Ross Morris is quicker than his qualifying time. He's in car 3 as we watch his dad. Pete in the 15. Simon Clark, the only driver to break into the 114s at the moment. That was on lap 9. And Jake McAleer in the 115s, as is Steve Cheetham and Kevin Harrison, and indeed Chris Dyer. Mark McAleer was on 114s as well before his untimely retirement from the race. So Mark McAleer very definitely had race-winning pace after setting the pole time in this one, and we're just going to have to see what the problem is and see whether we can get him out for race 2. Meanwhile, this is Ross Morris up ahead of James Cayley, 9th and 10th in the race. Ross, the Class 2 leader. James Cayley running in Class 1 is going to have a little nibble here. Ross goes to the outside line. He doesn't need to defend, of course. He knows that the Class 1 car will have a little bit more speed, which it does. And Ross, of course, will be looking in his mirror. He'll know there's a big gap back to Trevor Lewis in second place at the minute. So good driving from both men. That little bit of bodywork still there, I think, from Kevin Molyneux's car. We did see it parked up and probably will again in the back of shot. There we are. Flash of yellow in the background. Steve Cheetham up ahead of Kevin Harrison. Cheetham is in 4th place. Then Broster getting up through the traffic. Max Wolstenholme has been passed by him. And here is Ross Morris, the fastest lap in class for Ross as well. Maybe a little bit of a frustrating start for Ross. Qualified 3rd in Class 2. Dropped back to 5th, as we saw from that onboard at the start of the race, but has really made the race his own. And a little bit of Morris family history here in the offing as Pete Morris climbs up towards Coppice. Again, still comfortable in the lead. Ross Morris in the lead of Class 2 as well. So things nicely settled for our opening round of the 2019 Petro Canada Lubricants Porsche Club Championship with Pirelli. Paul Seagrave in the mix as well. Angus Archer still busy chasing Steve Freeman. Steve in 3rd place. So this the battle for the last podium position in Class 2, and Angus Archer closing in. It's still Trevor Lewis in 2nd place in class behind Ross Morris. Steve Cheetham and Kevin Harrison enjoying their dice, with Chris Dyer in 6th position. Steve Cheetham in the Cayman coming down into Redgate. Kevin Harrison, is he going to have a look? Certainly comes off line. He thinks about having a look. He was just a tad too far back. You can see that when they come square onto the camera at Redgate. Now down through Hollywood once again, and Kevin Harrison trying to work out whether he can get past as we go back to the Class 2 leader. Just looking at Cheetham and Harrison's lap times. There's no time to do that because Jake McAleer has caught Pete Morris out front now. Jake McAleer putting Pete Morris under pressure and looks on the inside line. There's a tag between the two of them. A big tag between the pair of them. And Jake McAleer has got the inside line. Well, now we go back to the 3rd place battle in Class 2, and it's still Steve Freeman is there, but just look back. They're side by side. Morris got the inside line back, and it's McAleer, and this is bringing Simon Clark into what is now a 3-way battle for lead position as they cross the line. So it's Pete Morris the leader. Jake McAleer is 2nd. Simon Clark looks on the outside line as they come into Redgate. They're closing up on the Class 2 machines as well. That could come into play for sure. The Class 2 boys will be very wary of what's happening behind. They'll know that these cars are closing in. They'll see the blue flags from the marshals as well. But nonetheless, this is a worrying time potentially for Pete Morris, who has led the race since turn 1. So Morris leads. Jake McAleer closing in again. Jake's already had one nibble. They call it a bite, actually, if you like, on the inside line where they touched. Green flags waved there. They've got to be mindful of those parked cars and the yellow flag zone, I think, along Starkey's. But look at McAleer. Wide sweep there through McLean's. He's going to have a look here. Angus Archer keeping a wide line. And you'll see the blue flags being waved by the marshals there. Angus Archer generously giving up on that battle momentarily with Steve Freeman. He's ceded a fair bit of space there to Steve to allow the Class 1 runners through. Very generous of him to do so. And Pete Morris is going to come down and try and get through on the inside of Freeman, who's still actually ahead as they go through the Fogarty S's. But Morris is still the leader, but under pressure here. Lights ablaze from Morris. He crosses the line onto the last lap here of the opening race of the year. And McAleer's having another go. McAleer around the outside. Jake McAleer. He goes very deep into Redgate and he's still fighting on the outside line. Can he get his nose in front as they go around Hollywood? Again, this is fair racing between the two. Morris is giving him room. McAleer's in through now into lead position. Jake McAleer, the race leader. Pete Morris down to second. Simon Clark is in third place as they go into the old hairpin, but there's a wobble from McAleer, who's off on the grass. McAleer down to third. He rejoins but does not look happy, and Pete Morris gets the lead back. Jake McAleer had his nose in front, but it's Morris still there. Simon Clark is piling the pressure on. They're approaching the second place Class 2 car of Trevor Lewis, but here comes Pete Morris up ahead of Simon Clark. Clark, remember, fastest man on circuit, and that car really coming on solid. Blue flag shown for Trevor Lewis. I don't know whether he'll stay in front of these two, but here they come. Down the straight for the last time, in towards the S's. Morris has got a little bit of a gap. I think that's going to be enough. Past Trevor Lewis go both runners, first and second in the race, and it's going to be Pete Morris who exits Fogarty's after that superb start of the race. He had to earn it. Morris takes the win, Clark second. Jake McAleer is still running in third place. He'll be frustrated with his race for sure, but he'll get a podium finish. Steve Cheetham is behind Jake McAleer. He finishes fourth from Kevin Harrison. Chris Dyer will be the next car across the line in the red and black colours of the Strasser team. What a race we have had. There is Glenn Broster in seventh place. Andy Toon will finish in eighth. James Cayley, I think, completing the Class 1 runners, but it's Ross Morris who wins Class 2. Ross's win, there it is, win and fastest lap. Trevor Lewis will take second position in class. The car's already in victory lane and ready to chat to Andy. A delighted Pete Morris. That was a hard-fought race. Fastest lap there in second position to Simon Clark. Let's hear from the guys after we've had the result here. Pete Morris, the winner from Simon Clark. Jake McAleer, Steve Cheetham and Kevin Harrison. Chris Dyer in sixth. Then Broster and Andy Toon ahead of James Cayley. Ross Morris wins Class 2. Trevor Lewis second from Steve Freeman and Angus Archer. Paul Seagrave and Richard Bayston next up from Max Kyle Henney, with Max Wolstenholme completing our finishers, who are now with Andy.
Well, Pete Morris, first victory of the season, and what a race it was, what a start it was.
Yeah, I got it hooked up well, didn't I? I could see Jake creeping. I mean, he might have had a penalty, but I think that played on his mind a bit. And I seen his dad struggling. I thought, well, I had a bit of a plan to get in front of them both by Redgate. But yeah, it was great to bring it home. But the last 5 laps, hard on the brakes, hard on the tyres. It was a handful.
Well, Simon Clark, a sixth place starting position. Honestly, did you expect to be on the podium at the end of the race?
I didn't expect to be. It's not kind of historically a strong circuit for the Cayman here, I don't think. But actually, yeah, the car's just got so much consistency. Like even towards the end of the race, it still feels properly planted. Whereas you can see 911's just moving around a lot. So yeah, wasn't necessarily expecting it, but over the moon to be there. I think it's a great start to the season. So we've got a couple of new sponsors on board, Free and Let's Connect. Both of the guys are here, so it's nice for them to see that. And obviously Big Hand as well. They've given me a massive help. So yeah, no, it's brilliant. Couldn't really ask for more from sixth.
Well, Jake McAleer, you started second, then you were fourth, then you were second again, and then you finished third. So a pretty entertaining race all round.
Yeah, well, as I spoke to you before, I made a bit of a mess of the getaway. Pete just blew past both of us, I think. And then Steve got me at the inside. I had a nice dice with him for quite a while, managed to get the inside. And then me and Simon were having a really good battle. My dad obviously pulled off. We managed to pull in Pete, and yeah, I'm just really disappointed, to be honest with you.
Ross Morris, congratulations, a Group 2 victory here in the season opener. Probably, I think it's fair to say, not a victory you were expecting to be getting about halfway through the race.
No, I got a terrible start off the line. I think I went down to fifth at one point. So I tried to gain some places off, and it left a big gap between me and first place when I eventually got back up to second. So as I was reeling him in bit by bit, he ended up just chucking it off. Bit of a mistake, and that gifted me the win, really.
Your car, thankfully, is in one piece and clearly was working fairly well, because although the start didn't quite go to plan, you had good pace after that.
Yeah, the car felt fantastic at the beginning of the race, and then towards the latter start at the end of the race, the tyres were going off, so I just had to manage the tyres a bit, slow the pace down. I had a bit of a gap behind me, so just coasting to the end then.
Trevor Lewis, you started second in Group 2 and you finished second in Group 2. Simple job, really, wasn't it?
Yeah, just I dropped to the very end of the train on the first lap, and I had to come all the way back through to get to second. So yeah, it makes life more interesting. Much more interesting when you have to overtake a few cars. Yeah.
This is at least one of those circuits you can overtake at, though, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Yeah, it's not an out-and-out power circuit. You do get the overtaking opportunities, particularly on some of the braking points. But yeah, it's a lovely circuit. It's got ups and downs as well as lefts and rights. It's a cracking circuit to drive.
Well, Steve Freeman, congratulations. Podium in the first race of the season. It was a fairly lively start, though, back in Group 2, wasn't it? Everyone seemed to be up and down the order quite frequently in the first few laps.
They did, yeah. I got a really good start, actually. I was really pleased. I jumped a few places on the outside down to the first corner, and that made all the difference. Holding on to it for the next few laps was a bit more challenging, with some faster cars behind, but I'm really pleased with the result. Angus Archer was behind me and he was pressing me really hard, but I managed to hold him off, managed to defend enough, and I was a bit faster on the straights, and he was a bit faster in one of the corners at the top. So we kept our places, which was really good.
Well, Mark McAleer, things were going so well after qualifying. You qualified on pole with your son alongside you, and then it all started to go a bit wrong once the race started, didn't it? Talk us through it.
Yeah, well, that's car racing, isn't it? Obviously, it's the first time we try to get this car off the line and just struggled a little bit, just bogged down a little bit, but then obviously once the race got sort of into a bit of a rhythm, I thought we were quite sort of comfortable, and I thought no point in challenging Pete too early, we'll just leave it the last sort of 3 or 4 laps and then we'll have a go at it, but unfortunately it wasn't to be. We just started to lose a little bit of power, so we just thought we'd shut it down and make sure there's no major problems.
Yeah, I guess it's not worth damaging the car this early in the season. Are you hopeful to get it out there for race 2?
I don't know, we'll have to wait till the technicians have a look at it and see what the diagnosis is.
Well, I'm with Chris Dyer now after what was an eventful first race of the season for him. Chris, your car's not quite in the pristine condition we saw it this morning. What happened?
No, just going up to McLean's and momentarily car cut out for some reason, and I just lost my brakes, and I tried to avoid Andy Toon, and I just clipped him and spun him round, which I have apologised for. So yeah, it's done more damage to my car than I think it is, but we're having a good race up until then.
Pete Morris on pole for this race from Jake McAleer. Simon Clark is on row 2 with Chris Dyer and Kevin Harrison behind them. Andy Toon and Glenn Broster completing row 4. 5th row, James Cayley and Ross Morris. Ross on class 2 pole from Angus Archer and Steve Freeman. Trevor Lewis and Paul Seagrave ahead of Matt Kyle Henney. Richard Baston and Max Wolstenholme completing the grid. So a few non-starters in this one, and a slightly reduced field, but still a quality grid nonetheless. Still with blue skies, and Pete Morris on pole position with Jake McAleer. The lights are on. Out go the lights, and we are racing. Pete Morris makes another blistering start from pole position. Jake McAleer getting bogged down. It's Simon Clark up into second in the white and blue Cayman, the black and yellow Cayman of Steve Cheetham round the outside line. Ross Morris, I think, has made a good start in Class 2 once again. Angus Archer and Steve Freeman up at the sharp end as well. But it's Pete Morris that leads them down into the Craner curves, and the old hairpin from Simon Clark, then Steve Cheetham. Chris Dyer is 4th, Jake McAleer 5th ahead of Kevin Harrison. Then it's Andy Toon, followed by Glenn Broster. I think behind Glenn Broster we've got James Cayley on board with Angus Archer momentarily. Angus looking to try and get a podium in this one, having finished 4th in class in race number 1. But a good orderly start pretty much. Jake McAleer will probably kick himself once again, but we know he's got the pace to get up and challenge for podium honours once again, if not race winning honours. Angus Archer, quick look across down the straight coming into Foggies. And there was a flash of white coming up on his outside. It's Trevor Lewis. You can see towards the back of shot, Trevor Lewis in white makes the move. I think that was for 2nd in Class 2. So Angus Archer down to third in class as Chris Dyer gets on the outside line. Steve Cheetham is side by side with him, fighting it out for third place. So Dyer third, Clark in second immediately ahead of him. A quartet for lead position at the moment here in race 2. But it's Pete Morris showing them all, showing the 3 Caymans a clean pair of heels at the moment. Simon Clark, remember, fastest lap in race number 1. Now, are we going to see drivers breaking into the 14s here? The tyres, I suspect, may start to wear a little bit, so we might not see the lap times and pace that we saw, but we'll still have to keep an eye on everybody's time relative to each other as Steve Cheetham tries to get back on terms with Chris Dyer. Pete Morris still out front in the 997, the first driver to win in the 997 in the championship. There is Max Wolstenholme, not that far away at the minute from Matt Kyle Henney, with Richard Bayston in the 944 up ahead of them. Good racing wherever you look again, and it's a pair for the lead, breaking clear now. Steve Cheetham back into third. Chris Dyer is in fourth place ahead of Jake McAleer. Then it's Kevin Harrison. Andy Toon follows them. Simon Clark going wide into Redgate here, thinking about what he's doing. He'll want to try and get a good run through Hollywood now, then down into the Craner curves. He'll know he had the pace in race number 1, and assuming he hasn't taken too much out of the tyres and car, as we get deja vu here, Matt Kyle Henney down the inside line on Richard Bayston, but Richard's going to go back on the inside line through Hollywood. Super racing between these guys. Max Wolstenholme wanting to get involved as well. Richard Bayston goes back in front. Those drivers racing once again for 6th and 7th position in Class 2. Very definitely 2 battles going on now. So it's first and second, Peter Morris and Simon Clark, and then Steve Cheetham and Chris Dyer immediately behind. This is the battle for the lead in Class 2 with Ross Morris up ahead of Trevor Lewis. Ross not as far ahead or making as much progress as he did in race number 1. Trevor Lewis keeping him very honest at the moment. Remember, Trevor was second in our first race. Some of the drivers are going to have to be careful of track limits. Predominantly there, they've taken the sausage curbs out of the track there at Fogarty's. There were a couple of issues, a couple of warnings in qualifying. There was nothing in race 1, but we're starting to see drivers beginning to creep over a bit too far over the curbs here. And MSV, who run this circuit, are very hot on that sort of thing. And we might well see some penalties and the black and white warning flag going out to drivers, just to let them know that the clerks of the course are watching. If you've ever been to any of these circuits and been lucky enough to see the clerk's room, it's a massive bank of screens. They can see what's going on. MSV circuits have little cameras in the appropriate parts of the circuits as well, which are triggered by the cars running too far. Steve Cheetham having an issue there, and now Jake McAleer starting to get on his case and challenging for 4th place. The 44 car has a look. Cheetham not looking too happy there and goes wide. Back to the battling cars for 6th, 7th and 8th in Class 2. And Matt Kyle Henney trying to get back on the case of Richard Bayston, but the battle is on for the outright lead because Pete Morris is under massive pressure here. Morris still being chased hard by the 23 car of Simon Clark. Thrilling 4th place battle now. Jake McAleer going wide down the straight. Is he going to be able to make the position into Redgate? No, he can't quite do it. Kevin Harrison is immediately behind him. This is freeing up Chris Dyer ahead of them to maybe try and tack himself onto the battle for the lead. Bayston, Kyle Henney and Wolstenholme still circulating together, and I've no doubt that they are enjoying their race as much as we are watching them battling it out. Kevin Harrison starting to get back into Jake McAleer. It's freeing up Steve Cheetham a little bit in the Cayman ahead of those 2 996s. And it's a 3-way scrap for the lead now because Chris Dyer has turned up the wick and he's on the rear spoiler, the rear end of the 23 car. So Simon Clark coming under pressure. Chris Dyer. One feels there might be a little bit extra in the tank for Chris Dyer after race number 1. He's having a look, but so too now is Simon Clark, who goes to the outside line, not afraid to leave the door open on the way into Fogarty's. You just watched the I don't think anyone's impinging track limits there, but there are some warnings, I think, going to be issued. Kevin Harrison still chasing hard in 6th place. Jake McAleer ahead of him in 5th. Richard Baston coming under pressure again from Matt Kyle Henney. And you can see here Max Wolstenholme's done very well here to close in, a lot closer than he was in race number 1. Angus Archer goes through shot, 3rd in class. 4th is Steve Freeman in blue. 5th is Paul Seagrave. And then this trio. So we've got the context of where these three are, not that far behind Paul Seagrave at the minute here at Donington. Out of the S's along the straight. Baston still maintains that position, 6th place in class at the minute. And those three circulating still together as we approach the half distance in this one. And again, this is Matt Carlhead's favourite place on track. Nips down the inside line at Redgate, reclaims that position. Meanwhile, up into 2nd now has gone Chris Dyer, and it's a Strasser 1-2, 997 leading Cayman here, and Morris is under pressure from his teammate. Let's see what Chris Dyer can do. He's looking to have a speculative gander up the inside there. I don't think he was perhaps in a position to make it through, but really showing the nose of his car to Pete Morris. And one wonders whether we're going to get a different winner now, because they're almost forming a cube. I'm not saying Pete's holding them up by any stretch of the imagination. He's defending, and did you see the black and white warning flag is out for Pete Morris on the gantry? Pete Morris for track limits has got the warning. Now that is sure to have an effect, I would have thought, on his driving, because he's going to have to be very mindful of track limits now as they go side by side for the lead. Chris Dyer is challenging hard, but Pete Morris holding him off. Simon Clark still there in 3rd place. Steve Cheetham is in 4th position, and the lead trio still being chased by the trio from 4th, 5th and 6th, who I think might be starting to close in. But Chris Dyer here senses that he might be able to get a stab at the lead. Couple of lengths down at the moment as they go through McLean's and head up towards Coppice once again. But we've got all the lead 6 cars virtually in the same shot as we approach the halfway point of the race, and that shows you just how competitive this wonderful championship is here at Donington Park. Chris Dyer's through. Dyer leads. Simon Clark 2nd. Pete Morris is going to lose 4th position as well, because all over the back of him is Steve Cheetham. And Morris, to add insult to injury, is going to get a track limit. There's a little bit of a clatter there with Steve Cheetham. Morris still in 4th at the moment on the inside line as they come into Redgate. Kevin Harrison in the mix as well. Cheetham will smell a bit of blood here and wants to try and go past, but that was a lap to forget, sadly, for Pete Morris. So it's Chris Dyer the leader. It's Cayman's 1 and 2 with the 996 in 3rd place. Now Steve Cheetham does go through on the inside line and past Peter Morris. Kevin Harrison coming up into the mix as well and challenging Morris, who was, you've got to say, a star in race 1. Superb start for him and a great win, but it's not going to be a win here. He's got a 5-second penalty, as has Trevor Lewis running in 2nd place in class 2. Cheetham goes on the dirt. Morris comes out in sympathy. And past Morris now goes Harrison, and also Andy Toon going through as well. So Pete Morris won't be happy with that for sure. Ross Morris is immediately ahead of this man Trevor Lewis, who is going to be further back now with that penalty. Be interesting to see whether he can get enough of a gap over the other drivers to maintain a podium position here for Trevor Lewis. And Pete Morris is going to finish, if he stays where he is, a little way down the order. Through go the top 3. 4th is Steve Cheetham in the black and yellow Cayman, and Pete Morris now trying to get back on terms with Andy Toon. Kevin Harrison in front of him. So high drama at the midpoint of this race. The fastest lap of the race has been set by Chris Dyer. In class 2, once again, it is Ross Morris. Trevor Lewis, you can see, using a fair amount of the curb there. That's what the Clarks are looking at. You can see the black and white flag going out, and it was also on the digital gantry that drivers have got as well. So the drivers will see that, unless they're so focused on the race that they don't. But you can see there are wave flags, there are digital signs as well. And well, it won't do the organisers any harm to put the black and white flag out generally, but it is going out to specific drivers. So this the battle on the road now, if we can call it a battle, with 6 or 7 lengths between the two cars. And Ross Morris, if it stays like this, will go away with the Class 2 Championship lead. Simon Clark on the inside line here, Jake McAleer on the outside. This is the battle for second position, and McAleer has got it, so it's Chris Dyer up front, Jake McAleer in second position. He was much further down. It just shows you how competitive this championship is. So Simon Clark now down to third, and after a second in race number 1 for Simon Clark, he'll be keen to maintain podium position. Morris and Lewis still 1-2 in Class 2, and a fair old gap back to third place in class at the moment, which is with Angus Archer. So what a weekend we've had. We had the McAleers shutting out the front row of the grid in race number 1. We had both pole men in Class 1 and Class 2 retiring from the race. It looks like we're going to get a different winner here, at least in Class 1. Class 2, though, still headed by Ross Morris. Here is Chris Dyer, Chris having passed Richard Baisden, also the 25 car of Matt Kyle Henney and the number 12 of Max Wolstenholme. Good posture from those cars going through the chicane. So Dyer is through. Jake McAleer in second place is past Kyle Henney now, takes the outside line as they go through Redgate. Wolstenholme having a good race here, and he's up on terms with Matt Kyle Henney in this one. We've now got Steve Cheetham in third because Simon Clark is dropping back in the 23. So Steve Cheetham on for a podium here in 43, and that's going to be a one-place improvement if he finishes there on what he achieved in race number 1. Past Richard Baisden goes Jake McAleer in second position, and Chris Dyer still our race leader. Now, I stand to be corrected. I'm pretty sure Chris Dyer hasn't won a Class 1 race before, as Steve Freeman comes under pressure here from Paul Seagrave. Super race going on for these two. Seagrave and Freeman are 4th and 5th at the moment. Through and past Matt Kyle Henney goes Kevin Harrison. But here is the race leader, Chris Dyer, former champion, which he won, as we mentioned, in Class 2 several seasons ago. He's the first driver to get Cayman onto the podium and could well be the second driver to take a win in the Cayman. Simon Clark, of course, I think we mentioned earlier on in the show, was the first winner in the Cayman at Brands Hatch last year. Matt Kyle Henney now been passed by Max Wolstenholme, so a good race from him, trying to close up on Richard Baisden and challenge for 6th position in class. Glenn Broster makes a neat move there down the inside of those two Class 2 machines as well. Glenn Broster running in 6th position at the moment on the adjusted times, as it were. Pete Morris's penalty putting him down behind Glenn as Trevor Lewis continues on his way. You see a fair bit of gravel out there, which is making life tricky as they go through the chicane. Trevor Lewis crosses the line then, 2nd position in class, 3rd on the clock for Class 2, because Angus Archer will assume 2nd position as a result of that. But we're in towards the closing stages of this one. Ross Morris is clear once again in Class 2. For Morris, it looks like it's going to be virtually a completely perfect weekend. He didn't get pole position, but 2 wins, 2 fastest laps in the offing for Ross Morris here. Chris Dyer's on the last lap of the race. Andy Toon is still busy chasing Kevin Harrison here. That is for 4th place, so it's Dyer, McAleer and Cheetham. And out of the race, sadly, after a good drive up to that point, was Max Wolstenholme. He can be proud of the overtaking and catching that he's done. But Max is our first retiree from the race, and I suspect maybe our only retiree, given we're on the last tour now, as Andy Toon still gives chase of Kevin Harrison. Kevin not too far away from a podium in this one, but it's going to be Cayman 966 and Cayman here, with Chris Dyer still the race leader ahead of Jake McAleer in 2nd place. So Jake will go away with a 3rd and a second. I haven't worked the points out yet because it does complicate things with the number of starters. It's a good move, but we'll wait for the official calculations at the end of the day for that. Angus Archer going through shot. He's second in class from Steve Freeman and Paul Seagrave, but making his way to the checkered flag, Chris Dyer takes his first outright win in the Petro Canada Lubricants Porsche Club Championship with Pirelli. Jake McAleer is second. Steve Cheetham completes the podium in third. Kevin Harrison next from Andy Toon, and it's a double win for Ross Morris here in the number 3 car. Morris will take the win. It's Angus Archer who will take second. Simon Clark immediately behind him is still going and nursing his car home, 9th place in class, but it's a win for Chris Dyer. Dyer takes the win from McAleer and Cheetham. Kevin Harrison 4th from Andy Toon and Ben Broster. Pete Morris next from James Cayley. Ross Morris winning class 2 from Simon Clark. 11th goes to Angus Archer, second in class ahead of Trevor Lewis and Paul Seagrave, then Steve Freeman, Matt Cole-Henny and Richard Baston. Fastest laps, Chris Dyer and Ross Morris.
Well, congratulations, Chris Dyer. A race victory here in race 2 of the day, and that was quite a race.
Yeah, got an absolutely fantastic start. Just thought, I'm just plugging away at this. I had an awful first race. The car just felt awful in second race because I just conserved my tyres a little bit for the first race. It just paid off with that race. They just were unbelievable. Just a mega amount of grip. So really, really happy. It were great. Really good.
Well, Jake McAleer, congratulations. 3rd place in the first race. Up one further step on the podium in race 2, but you had to work for that one.
Yeah, once again I made a real mess at the start. It's really something I'm going to have to work on because you're making life so hard for yourself before you've even begun. But yeah, I pulled off a decent recovery drive back up to second. It's just a bit frustrating because you always want that win, don't you? Yeah, I mean, obviously I was a bit disappointed with race 1, but I think to come away from my first race weekend in Class 1 with 2 podiums, I'd have snapped your hand off with that yesterday. So yeah, I've got to be happy.
That was a really close race though, wasn't it? The kind of race that we often see from this championship.
Yeah, it was good, and I'm happy that I've managed to keep with a pack for most of the race. That's the main thing. So if you're sticking with a pack, then anything can happen. You know, you can get in the mix and you can end up with podiums. So yeah, brilliant.
Well, congratulations, Ross. Double Class 2 victory here at Donington Park. But I tell you what, Trevor wasn't a million miles back through the middle portion of that race, was he?
No, he had some good pace in that race, and he didn't give me a chance to relax. I had to keep pushing all race. Take a few of the curbs, try and stay ahead. So yeah, he kept me honest. Yeah, towards the middle part of the race in the end, the tyres had gone completely off and the brakes were going. So when Trevor eased off a bit, it gave me a chance to just relax and bring the brakes back. But yeah, the tyres are awful now.
New set maybe for Brands Hatch next time out. Are you looking forward to Brands Hatch?
Looking forward to it, but with Class 2 we have to keep the same set of tyres for 2 meetings. So I'll have to try and race on them now.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Well, Trevor Lewis, congratulations. 2 second place finishes here at Donington Park. In that one, though, it looked like you had pace that was a bit closer to that of Ross's, particularly through the middle portion of the race.
Yes. We were just about even Stevens, I think, all the way through. But being a bit of a fool, at the end I thought, 2 laps in the end, I can't catch him, preserve the car. Little did I realise I'd been given a 5-second penalty and we lost second place by 1 second. So all I should have done was keep my toe in because we didn't realise we got a penalty. But hey, that's the way it goes, isn't it? You know.
As we leave Donington Park, the championship table looks like this. Chris Dyer leads Class 1 from Jake McAleer, just a point behind. A further point behind him is Pete Morris from Steve Cheetham, Simon Clark and Kevin Harrison in 6th. Division 2, no mistaking, Ross Morris, 13 points clear of Trevor Lewis from Angus Archer and Steve Freeman. Paul Seagrave is 5th, ahead of Richard Baston. That wraps up our coverage from here at Donington Park. Many thanks for watching. We hope that you'll join us next time out on the Grand Prix circuit at Brands Hatch.